Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Your pace was off, Joe.
The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I would second that motion.
And a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of adopting the agenda as presented indicate by saying aye.
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 Next is approval of the minutes of July 29th, 2022. Is there a motion?
I would move that we approve the minutes of July 29, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Discussion, additions or corrections? Joe, do you have any?
Uncharacteristically, no.
What, Joe?
I said uncharacteristically, no.
I got it. Okay. How about you, Dick?
Can I come up with something here for you, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Dick.
I think at the end, in the section for approval of agenda, at the end of the first paragraph, that is redundant and repeated at the end of the second paragraph, after Joe Marks made a motion to amend the memorandum of understanding. I thought that was, maybe but let me rephrase this. All were in favor of what was the motion? Was the motion to do what? To change the agenda?
Joe Mark made a motion to amend the memorandum of understanding. Mary Lee Harris
Above that,
seconded.
there was all were in favor of, and the motion carried 8-0. What was that motion?
That had to be the motion.
I think I made a motion, well, after making a motion to approve the agenda, I indicated that I would like to add something to the agenda, specifically a revision of the memorandum of understanding. What I don't recall was whether that was considered in the motion to approve the agenda.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just saying this lacks clarity. At all. I'm trying to figure out what we need to do to give it clarity.
Right. I agree.
So, gentlemen, what would you like to do to get it clarified?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what the motion was or who seconded it, but
It says ML Harris seconded.
on the next line down, Joe, is that the same motion? I guess that's what I'm questioning, because is that the same motion that's in the reference in the line above they carried 8-0? And then on the next line down, ML Harris seconded and all were in favor, so voted?
So I think my intention, and I hope this is what I expressed in this process, was that I was making a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of one item that had not been included in the original agenda, namely a proposal to modify the memorandum of understanding. And there seems to be consensus. I can't recall whether this was actually voted on, but there was no objection to that. And so I think that, in effect, we approved the amended agenda, including the topic of the change to the memorandum of understanding.
So, Mary Lee, help us out. Do you remember who seconded that motion?
I believe I did.
Works for me. So, Allison, can you straighten this mess out for us?
I will try. I will listen to the recording of the meeting.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
That'd
all I
be
got
great.
on this, Mr. Chairman. No, wait a minute. On the back, on page 2, the first paragraph on page 2, says Arco's made a motion to enter executive session to discuss real estate, et cetera, and then the last 3 words of that sentence, or 4 words, to discuss real estate, should be deleted as they're redundant.
Right. I would agree with that.
Okay,
And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
and you're all set now, Joe?
I am.
Mary Lee?
Fine.
Me too. Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes of July 29th indicate, with corrections, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
approved.
Jim,
Yes,
I have a question about, July 20th.
July 20th.
I don't think July 20th and July 25th have been approved.
They were, you got them at the meeting, but they weren't on the agenda, so they were supposed to get moved to this meeting.
But they weren't?
They were not.
Okay.
Well, I was prepared to discuss July 25th, July 20th, Allison, I have to apologize. I do recall that we tabled that, but I'm not prepared to discuss it tonight. I can be prepared at the next meeting. That's July 20th, right?
Yeah. July 20th is the one.
Okay, does that help you, Allison?
So
Well,
July 20th and 25th will be at the next meeting.
We have
We
20.
can do the 25th tonight.
Yeah, we got,
That's
we got the 25th here.
yeah. I would make a motion that we approve the minutes of July 25th, 2022.
Is there a
I'll second
second?
that.
And a second. Discussion, additions, corrections?
You wanna go first, Joe?
Sure. On page 2, second paragraph, third line ends with THT. I think that should be that. Further on down that same paragraph, 5 lines from the bottom of it, it says, J-mark, were the well and retaining wall in place then or have been put in later. I would prefer that to say, J-mark asked whether the well and retaining wall were in place then or have been put in later. In the second to last line of the same paragraph, it says J-mark has been lingering for a long time. That might be true, but I think what I tried to say at that point was J-mark said that this has been going on for a long time and asked town manager to come back to the board with something on this within a few months. So I would hope it would read, J-mark said that this has been going on for a long time and be added. In the next paragraph, police update, in the 5th line from the bottom, J-mark reviewed that DPS covers dispatching. I believe it would be more accurate to say that J-mark observed that DPS has been funded by the legislature to cover dispatching. In the next paragraph, regarding the Granger House project, the 4th line from the bottom, I believe that sentence that says, starts with J-mark urged. At that time, I was urging board members, not the Granger individuals. I think it should read, J-mark urged board members to take advantage of any opportunities to, and add, to learn about the modern technology being used at the Granger House. And in the next page 3, last paragraph regarding Beth Murphy appointment, second line says, M. McIntyre stated shouldn't be for 2 years. I think we should add, this appointment shouldn't be for 2 years. And on the 4th page, first paragraph, second line, speaks of the name Ahave or Ahave, Ahave. That should be Ahava ending in an A. And that, I believe, is all that I would recommend we change about this draft. Thank you.
Okay. Dick?
Okay, on page 4, under the section employee application, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines down, the Board of Selectmen is in the wrong place, I believe. I believe when Mr. Marks stated, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, that you wanted to include the Board of Selectmen in the other town boards, such as planning, DRB, et cetera, that were not part of the operation of the town. And
Yes.
then you go with like emergency services, animal control, constable, et cetera. So Board of Selectmen should be moved from there, from where it is currently, up to the list including planning, DRB, et cetera. Do you agree with that, Joe?
Yes.
Okay. On page 5, under manager's report, down at the very bottom of the second paragraph, before you get to where the motion was made, the sentence that says, Arcombe stated they are meeting with officers in the near future. He is not comfortable with only one pumper. The word only should be inserted in there. Being in town, and engine 2 should be inserted instead of it needs to go. So it should say engine 2 needs to go to Granville to get estimated and or fixed. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks, Dick. Mary Lee?
I'm fine.
I'm fine. Okay, I'm fine. All those in favor of accepting the minutes for July 25th with corrections indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mike, in the off chance that some of our members may be less organized than others, could you have Karen include a copy of the 7/20/22 draft minutes in the next select board meeting packet, please?
Yes.
Got it, Mike?
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? If not, moving on. Citizens' comments and/or concerns not on the agenda. Linda?
Well, I found out today that I'm not on the agenda. I didn't get a copy of the agenda, but I would like to discuss the letters that I've sent.
I would suggest at this time that since we have one member absent, 2 members on Zoom, and only 2 of us physically present, that your letter should be discussed when there's a full board.
What if there's never a full board?
Well, if we can get 4 out of 5, that's better than 2 of us being here.
But
Well, Zoom is Zoom. I think it should be something that members are able to be physically present. And as soon as that happens, if that's agreeable with the board, we will certainly notify you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Anyone else, items not on the agenda? I see a hand back there and with a blue sweater on in a very warm evening.
Hey, it's cool in here. All right, couple questions. I guess to follow up on one is, I would say, if you're not counting those folks on Zoom, then you don't have a quorum.
Well, then I guess we better all go home.
Well,
Sounds
no,
like a good
that's,
plan.
I mean, that just sounds to me like it's my thought, that if you're not counting this as a meeting where she can present something, then you don't have a quorum.
Your comments are noted.
I have a question about special meetings. I'm noticing that they're like at different times, whereas the select board meeting is set at 7. And why are special meetings typically earlier?
Are you referring to what meeting?
I guess you can.
Any meeting?
Almost any special meeting, they're typically not at 7, they're earlier.
Mike?
Depends on what it is for, Mary. If we're, including the Hubbardton board, we're kind of going off what they're available as well, so they've been wanting to meet earlier. So those special meetings that included Hubbardton were earlier. And a lot of the special meetings precede a regular select board meeting, so we try to get the special meeting done before the regular meeting starts. So typically they're at 6 o'clock is really what happens.
Right, and
Yeah.
that's for people who work this.
Okay. Anything else, Mary?
Yep. Where can recordings be listened to? What site do you have to go to listen to recordings?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chairman, so we've been trying to put the link to the recordings on the minutes of the meetings. So we're asking, so that you can go to the minutes and then the link to the Zoom recording should be there. Or if it's been recorded by PEG TV, how long before they're posted?
About 48 hours.
So there is definitely two.
Two ways to do it?
Two ways to do
Okay,
it, yeah.
all right,
And
my bad, I
then
didn't know
we
that.
also archive some meetings, I don't know for how long, but we do archive on our website and on the YouTube channel of PEG TV.
Perfect,
I
thank
think
you.
it's a little easier to navigate the YouTube channel, but that's just myself.
How many select board meetings can a member miss?
As many as he or she wishes to, because if they're unable to be here with a valid reason.
And what is the CVS school status?
One is what?
What's the CVS school status? I haven't seen that post listed for sale.
I don't know.
It isn't, there's a meeting on August 8th for the board, the two boards to meet. And it's gonna be at the village school. And then,
Mr. Chairman, just a correction, today is August 8th.
thank you, Joe. Thursday, whatever day that is.
Okay.
I thought today was the 11th.
Thursday is.
Isn't it the 11th?
Whatever day Thursday is. Oh, we got a calendar right here. I put it up on the table.
Thursday's
Time
the
out, Mike. I
11th.
think today is the 11th, isn't
It's
it?
the
It's
11th.
the
It
8th.
is the 11th.
Today's the 8th. The
Right.
Meeting's the 11th.
The
Okay,
meeting's the 11th.
okay.
So the status will be discussed then?
The board has, well, I'm not gonna talk about when the board's gonna announce it. That's their,
Well, that's
Well, what do you mean by status?
Well, I haven't seen that it was put up for sale. And I believe the vote was to sell it. So I'm wondering where, and I know you've had a lot of executive sessions, but I don't know anything about it.
the town hasn't received the updated assessment value from Sergeant Appraisals yet. We're waiting on that.
Okay,
That'll help, because you don't know what the value of the building is at this time.
okay.
So we're waiting for Sean Sargent to give us that information. What the hell's going on here? I think it was the fire department stuff, but it's, anyway, okay.
What else, Mary?
So then it's still the plan is to put it up for sale?
Yes, that was the vote.
Okay.
That was the vote of the combined boards. You all set now, Mary?
I am, thank you.
Mary, next Mary.
Thank you. I just want to thank you, commend you for posting the minutes in advance so we could follow along. I really appreciate that. I hope that continues. But I did notice that there was one question I asked at the last select board meeting that wasn't reflected in the minutes, so maybe it could be reflected today. And that is that will CVS be listed by a licensed real estate broker so more people can see that it's for sale? And
Yes, it will.
Answer that tonight. It will be.
The answer to your question is, yes, it will.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else who wishes to address the board on items not on the agenda? You?
No, I did.
Go ahead, Mike.
The letter that you gave me, Mary,
Yeah.
I gave it to Karen today. She didn't have it, so that's gonna get, I don't know if she posted it yet, but if not, it'll be posted by tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I see a head. Janet?
So, I have a question regarding the DRB board decision. Is it considered public now?
I believe it is.
Okay. And is the select board, going to entertain any, questions or suggestions from the public?
I would assume that at the appropriate time, the board will discuss it, and I see no reason that there would not be entertain suggestions or comments from members of the public.
Okay, I'd like to have it in the minutes that I, as a citizen voting member of Town of Castleton, request a reconsideration to the DRB.
So noted.
And then my second, in regards to what you just said to Wenda, may I make a request that in order to address the letters from Wenda Bird, that the select board chair requests that the members who are attending by Zoom to attend in person, so this can be addressed at the next select board meeting and put onto the agenda.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
You all set?
Second
Ellen?
amendment, please.
Janet Curry.
Janet Curry.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Dick?
I would like to know what, Janet Curry specifically wants the DRB to reconsider. The entire decision or just part of it?
May I answer that question?
Sure.
Okay, I would like to I will answer that question, but I would like to submit that answer in writing to the select board.
Okay,
Would that be okay?
sure it would.
Okay.
All set, Janet?
I am, thank you.
Okay. Mary?
I'm sorry, I just have one more question, Mary Drogi. I had asked 2 weeks ago for the select board to respectfully consider keeping in town ownership all the land west of CVS as town property, and I would like to ask the question again if there's been a decision made about that.
No decision has been made, but it is under consideration. Anything else? Seeing none, we'll move on. Staso Road Scoping Study, MSK Engineers.
So we have Andrew Rodriguez and Evan Fitzgerald on from that project.
Okay, which one of you gentlemen would like to lead off?
Hi, Janet, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Well, my name is Andrew Rodriguez. I work for MSK Engineering, and also with me is Evan Fitzgerald from Fitzgerald Environmental. And we've been before you guys a couple times now. So this is kind of our last meeting, kind of summarizing the results of our cost analysis and kind of going over some of the funding options, and then also kind of the project timeline as we kind of see it shaking out. I will say schedule and costs are obviously subject to fluctuations, and how everything's going in this market is really hard to estimate kind of anything. But this is a kind of a best guess based on historical projects and also what we're seeing from contractors right now in the field. We requested a number of quotes from different manufacturers and things like that. So this is kind of up-to-date information as best we can do it. Would I be able to share my screen? I think, oh, actually I can. I'll do that right now. Can you all see?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
There we are.
You see now?
Yep.
Okay. So just to kind of refresh memories, the town's, the select board went with this selection of the salt and sand shed at this location. It is basically in the position of the existing salt and sand shed. And I believe some of your rationale is this would probably be the most cost-effective solution and while still achieving the results. So we went ahead and kind of went through all the different pricing options. And we came up with a total price of $1,206,585. This is all, this is all inclusive, including a 20% contingency and also engineering and construction oversight costs. Your base cost with mobilization is a little over $800,000. And then, so we split out the salt and sand shed, and then the other kind of half of this project would be improvements for the erosion control, sedimentation, and stormwater controls. We would estimate that work and material total would be about $71,000, with the all-in total, including 20% contingency, of $115,000. So that's kind of our estimate for costs. As far as funding options go, two of the most commonly funding options that you guys could go after would be the municipal highway and stormwater mitigation program. Kind of key highlights on this is that it has a $250,000 minimum. It's federally funded and it requires a 20% local match. And then another option would be the Transportation Alternatives Program that has a $375,000 cap. So you can't go over that. So that you could, and that's why we kind of split it up, these two cost estimates, because you could definitely go for one with one, the other with the other. One of the important things to note is that for this, the Transportation Alternatives Program, if the project is not constructed, the town would be required to pay back all the funds that were given to them. So that's, you definitely want to have a project that is seen through to completion. That is kind of just one hiccup on that. And after that, kind of the rough schedule that we would see is, the approval, and then if the grant, applications were done in the fall, you could probably procure design services by next summer, and with a construction window of winter of 2023 to winter of 2024. I know these are very wide windows and very kind of far out, but it kind of reflects the kind of shortages and lead times that we're experiencing. For example, any cast concrete structures of significant size are at least 9 months out right now that we're seeing. So we want to be very conservative in our timelines, just so, everything isn't, we're not, giving up any false hopes. So at that, if you have any questions, I feel free to ask them and we can field them and kind of go from there.
Whoa. What was the total cost again?
For the salt and sand shed itself, 1.2 million, and then for the erosion improvements would be 115,000.
Thank you. Other questions? Mike?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Jim Mark.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Andrew, I'm looking at a table on page 16 of the scoping study that I received.
Yep.
And it does not have those numbers on it.
On page 16, it does not have those. What is it blank or is it?
No, it's called 6.0 project cost estimate.
Okay.
I can tell you what that looks like. If it looks a lot like the table you just shared with us, but the numbers are quite different.
Okay. I apologize, I might be going on a different version. I believe this is the most recent version I sent out. What numbers are you getting? I apologize if I'm in the wrong version. I believe this was, I thought.
I just trying to understand the discrepancy. The work and material total on the table that I have is $488,632.09. The contract total is $688,329.64.
So, okay, and that was for the salt and sand shed?
It's not really labeled
Okay,
in that way.
so I believe that is an earlier draft that you have
I see.
before everything was split up, and then at the request of V-Trans, we sought some more information, and that increased our estimates.
Can I interject here, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, go ahead, Dick.
Joe, are you looking at, on the cover of your report, is it report date March of 2022?
That's exactly right.
Okay, yeah, I'm experiencing the same thing you are. I was a little bit surprised to see the numbers of that chart were significantly different than what I looked at earlier today. So,
Yeah,
I think our report we got is the difference in revisions here.
Yeah, our report date is June.
I don't think we have that.
I believe it's probably the case that the select board hasn't received that report.
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't recall seeing it either, Andrew, so if it's in my email basket, I haven't seen it.
Okay, I can make sure that that is sent off to you. I believe it was sent out, but I can reissue this report.
It says,
So what,
but the label says it's version 17 on where you're sharing your screen.
Yes, this is an internal version. The one that was sent out to you, I believe, I can double check and see when it was sent out. But you wouldn't have the version 17 on yours.
Yeah, it was sent to the group on July 1.
To which group was it sent to?
It would be yourself, Devin, Peter. Hold on, I'm just trying to get to it right now.
So am I.
yeah, I'd like to see the revised cost at some point in the near future.
Yep.
Sure.
I can almost read this on my screen, but not quite.
You want, I can
Well, that helps immensely.
Okay, I can zoom it in pretty good. Yeah, I have it. I'll resend it to you now. Stacy from our office had to attach it to a Dropbox because the files were so big. But I will send that to you again right now.
Yeah, I think I can see where some of the major differences are already, just looking real quick.
Yeah, and also part of that is really the difference in pricing from March to June. You know what I mean? We saw really rapid escalations in a lot of things, so.
I totally get that. I make windows and doors, and I've seen costs jump on several items, and really some cost estimates and their changes that I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah.
So I understand.
Okay, other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Yes, Joe?
this is Joe Mark again.
Yes, Joe.
On page 11 of the report that I've received, under permitting regulations and Act 250 land use, you indicate that any modifications to the existing site, including construction of a structure to store salt and sand, will likely trigger the need for an amendment to the existing Act 250 permit. What is the process and timeline and cost for achieving such an amendment?
So generally, the costs are included in the permitting costs, but it's kind of really up to the final scope of the project and what you're going to include. But roughly, it's kind of hard to say. It's normally around a 40 man-hour kind of a project, and it involves, and that's kind of got the application submitted, and then there's usually a pretty lengthy coordination with the state. Are you familiar with the Act 250 process?
Only vaguely.
So the Act
Unfortunately.
250 process basically it's a permit from the state of Vermont, and there's a number of criteria that need to be evaluated for changes to land use or changes of the land use permit. And so there's a number of criteria that address basically all the major departments within the state of Vermont. So once that application is submitted, all departments in the state of Vermont have an opportunity to comment and offer conditions and kind of go through that process. So generally the process to get an amendment for an Act 250 permit is on the order of around 6 months. That can be shorter if the Act 250 administrator deems this as a non-technical amendment and it's just an administrative amendment. They'll usually get that done in a couple months. But I will caveat saying if there are a lot of technical comments and there are a number of departments issuing recommendations or conclusions, or it can stretch out to about a year.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
If I could just add to that, I think this is a relatively, as far as Act 250 goes, a relatively low complexity
Yes.
project. And a lot of the same issues that come up typically that Andrew was referencing related to natural resources or what have you, we've addressed in this report. So I don't see that as a major hurdle. It's just a matter of time, as Andrew said.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Sitting here doing some quick math, based upon the numbers that were just given, the town would be short approximately of what we got $200,000 currently. I know Bob's not here and he's usually concerned about this. We're short $64,000 if you take 20% of the two numbers that were given, if my math is correct. So we'd be short money, and I think Bob was asking about that, whether or not we need ARPA funds, and I told him based on that last document that I saw that we wouldn't, but this document says we would.
Okay.
These numbers.
Thanks for the update, Mike. Any other questions, comments on the scoping study? If not, you gentlemen are going to get us the revised numbers?
I just sent it to
Yes,
everybody.
I already sent the revised copy to Mike, so
Okay.
you guys should have that right now.
I just sent it to everybody.
Okay. Anything else on this?
Just one thing, keep in mind if we're just a little short, we still have probably best estimate is 2 years to make that shortfall good, right?
Yep, and I would also say that, it would benefit you guys to work with the state in coming up with, looking at all these grant options. Those 2 grant options are what are available right now, but as you know, the state often changes how grants are done, caps, limits like that. So there could be a lot of other funds available with ARPA money that is going to the state, I would say.
Anything else? If not, thank you very much, gentlemen. We appreciate it. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is CDERAC bylaws, Mary McIntyre.
Okay, we'll give this a try again. Mary McIntyre here. So you should all have copies of the bylaws. I added, thanks to Joe, we made some corrections that were hard to make, just jotting them down from this meeting. Joe reviewed them for me, and I think we've got those all in. I added page numbers from last week, and that, from the last meeting 2 weeks ago. And then at the last meeting, you requested that upon closer look of what now is referred to as page 2, the CDERAC appointment terms, there's a chart in there. Because this is the bylaws, I didn't fill in the chart, but it's just a reference point, so we can all keep a chart off to the side. So it just makes it easier to follow and easier for this group to be reminded that we have a couple positions that are only 1-year appointments. So that's been part of the confusion, is that everybody was being put in for 2-year appointments, but, which may be typical in some boards, I don't know, but in this one, that's how the bylaws were written. And it does make sense, in my mind anyhow, why that was done. So, I put in a rough hand scratched out chart, and then Karen, I'll read it for you. There you go. I wasn't able to print that.
You want to refer to that, Mary?
Yep, thank you. So going forward, so we had, so going into this year, the town had, going into June 30th, the town had everyone at 2 years. They had expiration dates for some as 2022, including myself, Ted Molnar, Dick Coombs, Martha Clifford, and Joe Bruno. Then on file with the town was P.D. Laurel with 2024 expiration, or expiration of her appointment, and Zach Holsworth was 2024. Well, that's just not possible, because the bylaws, that would have been more than 2 years. So I think we've got it straightened out. To right the ship, what we had to do is Martha and I agreed to take 1-year appointments, and that would give us expiration appointment expiration dates of June 30th, 2023. And that was a big move to really not be disrespectful for what you guys made appointments for most recently, but we had to come up with some resolve to right the ship. And then our other issue, you'll see that Joe Bruno's still down here on the list as expiring June 20th, 2022. Well, Janet Curry was initially appointed as a CDERAC member as chairperson of the Planning Commission. And when she resigned, Joe Bruno stepped in, but unfortunately there's no record that he was ever appointed. And in talking with him, he doesn't want an appointment. So he doesn't want to be on the board. It's one too many meetings. So we've got to come up with someone else to be on the board. And he said that they have a meeting tomorrow night, and he would bring that up for discussion to see if anyone's willing to do that. And they would contact you, Mike, unless you're going to be at that meeting. And then the one other thing that we made as a change that had not been discussed previous to tonight was the quorum. The quorum had been listed as 6 people, but if you look at Robert's rules and look at their chart, it suggests, because you want to have half. So if you look at their chart for 9 members, they suggest the quorum to be 5. And that sure would make it a lot easier for us to have meetings, particularly when busy times of the year or with COVID, people aren't able to show up.
Okay.
So I think that would make us a lot more productive.
So what would you like us to do tonight, Mary?
I'd like you to approve these bylaws as presented.
With the changes? Just the bylaws and not the appointments?
Well, that's a very good point. The bylaws, and I think we're dead in the water if you don't fix the appointments. I mean, I can't tell you what to do, but we're dead in the water if you don't fix the appointments. Because those were errors. Do you want that sheet back or does somebody want the sheet back so you can make motions?
Well,
Can we treat those as separate issues, Mr. Chairman?
yes. You're saying basically,
I would move the acceptance of the revised bylaws for the CDERAC committee.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of adopting the revised bylaws for the CDERAC committee indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Not opposed. Now we move on to the appointments.
I would move the adoption or endorsement of the list of CDERAC appointments current August 2022 that was provided to the select board in our meeting packets.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Is that with the,
Whoops, hold
I
on.
would think that we need to remove Mr. Bruno from this list as he's requested to not be reappointed or not be appointed.
And it's our understanding that the planning commission will attempt to select someone else to represent the planning commission? Is that correct?
That was what I understood, correct, and, but that doesn't change the fact that Mr. Bruno no longer chooses to be on this list, and
Yeah.
therefore
Yeah, sure.
should not be when we approve this.
Okay.
Well, it shows an expiration date of 2022. It shows
Agreed.
It
So-
shows them already expired.
technically it's expired. I guess, are we,
I have another comment about the detail of the list, and that relates to Beth Murphy. At the last meeting, at Ms. McIntyre's suggestion, I changed my motion to appoint her to a 2-year term, and it made the motion instead that she be appointed to a 1-year term. And that was the motion that was passed, I believe. That conflicts with this particular list. I believe we had appointed her as a town or neighboring community resident. She is now identified as a business representative and appears to be listed as having a 2-year term. So I think we need to change the decision we made at our last meeting and/or change this list.
Mary?
So respectfully, Joe, you appointed me for a 2-year, and I've changed this list to a 1-year, and Martha to a 1-year, because this list hadn't been followed since essentially the inception of, since the last appointment. So the last 2 years, the bylaws hadn't really been followed by the board, it would appear. Erroneously, by all means. But, so in order to right the ship, I realized in fixing this that we had to make some changes. So myself and Martha, we put ourselves in 1-year terms, even though you'd appointed us for 2-year terms, and we are residents and we do not have businesses. Beth Murphy, on the other hand, has a business. So it made sense to slide her, it made sense to me, to slide her into a 2-year slot because she has a business and she is willing. She's been attending regularly for most of the winter, and she's just as a guest.
I got the minutes right here.
Oh, wait a minute, hold it. We all set, Mary?
Yeah, if that
Was that
answers your
better?
questions,
Yeah.
Joe.
Well, no, it doesn't quite. I foresee confusion in the future if we don't modify the motion to adopt this list to include the statement that this, what's the word I'm looking for?
Supersedes perhaps, Joe?
Supersedes, perfect, Dick, thank you. Supersedes previous select board appointments of members, community members and others to the CDERAC committee.
Is that an amendment, Joe, to your
Yes.
motion? I'll
Yes.
second the amendment.
Any discussion on the amendment? No? All those in favor of the amendment indicate by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye. That's approved. Any motion on the original topic?
I'm confused.
I'm ready to vote on the modified, amended motion to adopt this list.
Is there a second?
I believe I already seconded it, but just in case,
Okay.
I'll second it again.
Any other discussion on this? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mary. Moving on, Propane Bid Award.
It's the only one we got back.
You want that back? You need it? Here you go. Propane Bid Award, what do we have? Just one bid?
That's all we got back. yeah.
It appears. And no response received from 2 other companies. How does this price compare to last year, Mike? You have any idea?
I didn't look at it, Jim.
You haven't looked at it? Okay.
No, it's, Files has been the one that we've used since I've been here, that's always a bid on stuff. so.
Right. Okay, is there any motion on this?
We'll make a motion that we approve the propane bid, or accept the propane bid from Files Brothers Incorporated for this year's winter propane at a fixed price of $1.90 per gallon.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second, discussion. If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
motion passes. Update on broadband internet expansion. Tim Munks,
He's on Zoom.
he's on?
Yep.
Go ahead, Tim.
Cam, you're still muted.
I've got a presentation I'm going to put up. Good evening, everyone. Let me know if you can see that or when you can see it.
Yes,
Does it need to be enlarged or?
for my eyes.
Yeah, mine too, probably.
Three.
Now, let's see. And how's that? Is that better or not? Oh, let's do this. There we go. Okay, so, quick update on this. So, as part of OCCUD, we've decided since Rutland County and the coverage area is relatively strong for broadband, it was most cost effective to partner with private companies, whereas a lot of the other CUDs are trying to go it on their own and develop their own, basically be their own ISP, but we've decided to partner with private companies. In May, we issued an RFP, request for proposals from many ISPs that are operating in our area. We've now received what we believe is several viable responses from ISPs, and we're working through that. And there's actually questions and clarifications that we're seeking from these respondents. Now these are under NDA, and because we will start negotiating with these companies, we don't want to go into too much detail about it, but several of them are operating. The ones that have responded, for the most part, are operating in our area or in the area of the CUD. One other thing, Google Fiber recently reached out to the CUD and is interested in further engagement. They weren't involved in the original RFP, so we're trying to figure out how to deal with this. We've begun discussions with them, but it hasn't gone anywhere other than that. One last update, we applied for a pre-construction grant, and that was awarded a little over a month ago for $441,000. Essentially, that money will be paid. We hired a project manager, Amanda O'Connor, and she is working, as a consultant, kind of a part-time consultant, and so it's being used to pay for those fees as well as legal and other expenses that we're going to have in negotiating contracts with ISPs. Okay.
Hey, Tim, Tim, this is Mike. For those that don't know what an ISP is, can you just let?
An ISP is an internet service provider. So, this is a Comcast or a Consolidated Communications or telco or, that kind of, that basically gives you connection to the internet from your home or your premises, and does that. Well, the ones we're talking to are doing that with broadband and primarily with fiber. So just an update here now on Consolidated Communications. They've finished their phase 1 deployments of Fidium in Rutland County, and this is primarily they're replacing their old DSL broadband equipment with fiber optic or GPON, which is a gigabit passive optical network. And these are expandable up to much higher speeds over time as bandwidths increase. So what they've done is they've deployed their main trunk line down 4A, basically from Rutland through West Rutland, Castleton over to Fairhaven, and they're deploying spur lines out to neighborhoods. They're currently taking orders and hooking up premises in their coverage area, and I have a little map of that coverage area in the next page. So the 4 different service levels that they're offering to Castleton residents are shown here. They've recently added a higher speed line within the last month, going up to 2 gigabits per second, which is $165 a month. And just to remind everybody, a gigabit is 1,000 megabits, so it's pretty quick. Okay. This is their coverage area, and essentially it's the area that they've hooked up with DSL. So mainly the twisted pair phone lines that are coming into the residents in the main portion of Castleton. Whereas, you know, you go up around Lake Bombazine and some of the other areas, those are covered either by Comcast or Otelco. Let's see, I guess nothing else to say about this coverage. This is actually from their website, so this is publicly available. I do have more detailed maps from the RFP, but because that's under NDA, I really can't share those in this meeting anyway. Okay. So kind of our next steps, we're following up these RFPs with some clarifying questions and other things. So we hope to have that completed by the end of August. And then, you know, what we'll do from there is look to start doing negotiations with one or more of the RFP or ISPs to move forward. I know there's been, you know, kind of an ask to maybe hold some ARPA funds for the member towns. We're still not in a position to say what we could do with that, what we would need. So this is still open from our perspective. You know, I know if you guys need to make other decisions, maybe you go ahead and make those decisions. But if you can hold some money, that would be good too. So I'm open to any questions that I can answer, if there are any.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Mary Lee, you have any questions for him?
No.
Joe?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tim, I guess I heard you say that we have at least 3 companies that are providing service to our area, to our town. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are at least 3. We've got Otelco, Comcast, and PCI. There's probably more than that.
And what would the RFP do that's not being done by those 3+ providers?
So this is to provide service for unserved or underserved addresses. Basically to have universal access within the CUD and specifically for our interest, Castleton residents.
Do we know how many Castleton residents currently don't have adequate levels of internet service?
Yes, I can share that with you in a second. I think I've shared that before, but hang on, I can find that. I might have to drop this for a second.
Well, I guess I'd be satisfied with a fairly rough estimate on your part.
Yeah, we have that information. I can send that to you.
Sure. Are we talking about half of the residents of Castleton, a quarter?
Oh no, it's. I mean, our level of broadband is pretty high. I think we're talking about It's in the hundreds of residents, not, not per quarter type of thing.
I see, thank you.
Yeah.
And finally, is there a level of service, in fact, a bandwidth that is optimal, or obviously more is better in this business, but
More is better, but
where is the threshold?
You probably really need to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 megabits download. You can go slower upload, unless you're a business that, wants to have high upload speeds, but I think that's a different situation. But probably 200 megabits per second, I would say, is probably a minimum.
Thank you.
Most all of these services are offering 3 or 4 different levels, and some, as I showed, consolidated, now it's going up to 2 gigabits. Otelco is, they've started promoting this as well, and their service offering was up to 1 megabit. I think Comcast right now is doing somewhere in the neighborhood of a gigabit per second as well for high level. Typical is either 600 or 300.
Thank you. Appreciate your work on this.
Sure.
Dick?
I'm good.
You're good. I'm good. Thank you all set?
fine.
Thank you very much, Tim, for the update. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Tim.
Moving on, appointment to the Rec Committee. I believe we have a letter from Amanda Stockwell asking to be appointed. Where's the, let's see here, 3-year term.
Joe has a question.
Pardon?
Joe has a question.
Oh, Joe, okay.
I just wanted to ask about the Rutland County Solid Waste District update.
Yeah, that's
Is
next.
that going to be on the agenda?
It is. Oh, I bypassed you, Tim. I'm sorry.
Didn't you? You like my company here.
I know. We know you're enjoying yourself this evening.
Absolutely. Would you like your update?
Why don't we take this? We'll come right back to you. It won't take a second, I don't think. Okay? If that is acceptable to the board? Okay, is there a motion to appoint Amanda Stockwell to a 3-year term on the Recreation Commission?
She's my granddaughter, so I recuse myself.
Okay, okay.
I'll make the motion. I'm just figuring out what expiration is. That would be 2025. Is that correct, Joe?
That would be.
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to appoint Amanda Stockwell to the Rec Commission with a 3-year term expiring on June 30th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second?
And a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Mary Lee recused herself. Now we'll go back to you. I'm sorry, Tim.
No problem. Rutland County Solid Waste District has not had a meeting in July or August. However, I can tell you that I think last I was here, the concern was about the household hazardous waste pickup. I think that we did smooth that out a bit. I talked to Mr. Coombs, and he said that he did attend it and thought it went much better than the previous one.
I will agree, Tim, a significant improvement.
Okay, thank you. We're currently only doing household hazardous waste at Glucian Road by appointment, which one can make on the web page. We're still a person down in that department, trying to fill it and get training. The other day we had a little incident. It was so hot that it triggered our fire suppression system, and so that took another day to rekindle that. In September, we should have our audit from 2021 completed. The board previously has voted to take any surplus money and put it in a separate account until we can decide what to do with it. It is my hope that the towns will get some of that money back from the surplus, although there is some things that come up, of course. Right now, we're working on our what's it called, wastewater runoff permit. Like you had to do it for the transfer station, we're doing that at the Green Hills at the MRF. We don't know how much that's gonna cost, but we have budgeted for it over a period of time, so I'm hoping that it won't eat up a lot of any surplus that we had. And that's about it. I think our revenues continue to be on target, and it's hot out there. Yeah, you know. I did talk to our manager recently, however, I noticed when I took mattresses and box springs up to the Castleton transfer station, it was $19 a piece, I think, to throw one away. The Gleason Road, they put them over the scale, I think it cost about $3 or so, and I believe we end up paying more than that to get rid of them, so they are looking at readjusting those, and might even give you a call, Mike, to see where your numbers came up from.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Questions for Tim? Mary Lee? No. Joe?
No?
Dick? Dick? Dick,
You're muted.
can you hear us, Dick? Did we lose?
No, I have no question. Sorry, the phone rang, so I hit mute real quick.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Do you have any questions for Tim?
I do not. I'm all
You do not.
set.
Okay, I guess we're all set.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much you were very patient, Tim.
Thank you, John.
Managers report.
What are your questions? I knew you were gonna ask that, so.
I wasn't, what makes you think I was gonna do that? Is that what you're saying? Are you asking if there are any questions, Mike?
I do wanna say one thing, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
On page 8, under, paragraph E, apparatus, I did get an update today from Chief Goyette that the individual, will be here from, a repair facility out in Syracuse, New York, at 7 PM on the 15th of August to do that assessment, kind of a vehicle-wide assessment on that, on that one truck, on engine 2. So we'll have something following that, but he was able to get him out here, so the board asked that happen, so he did get it coordinated.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I'm just waiting to see if Mike has something else, Joe. Is it a question on the fire engine?
No.
Okay.
On another item on
Okay.
Mike's report.
What else do you have, Mike?
On page 10, 11, paragraph 11B at the bottom of the page, under the Parks and Rec Director. So everybody's backed out on me so far. I had 2 individuals I was following up with, and they both backed out. So I am gonna get a hold of the university and try to go that route and see if they can reach out to those folks that kind of have degrees in that type of program and get a word out there that we're looking for someone. The last person that dropped out, I was sorely disappointed that she did, but it's all been about money. So my comment here was, the board had approved some carryover money based on the budget surplus. My only problem with that is if I dipped into that, if the board doesn't approve the rec budget with that in there for the next year, then I wouldn't be able to pay that person the same amount of money they're earning at the end of the fiscal year. So what I said in here was a 5% increase, which would put it on target with everything I can find for like-sized towns with a full rec department, or a full-time rec director. But right now, that was what I was dealing with that one individual, and she since backed out, so I'm gonna go back to I'll scratch what I just asked you, and I'll go back to the drawing board and see what I can get through the university too.
So you don't wish us to act on that?
No, I'm not acting on it now, because that was really kind of gonna apply to that one individual, and
Okay.
it's kind of a moot point at this point.
Okay.
So pending any of your questions.
Questions? Joe?
Yeah, my question was exactly on that point on Mike's report on page 10. You've obviously given this some thought, Mike. What are you using for comparables?
For a town, like, so I looked locally, at Brandon. Pittsburgh doesn't really have a full-time, rec, so the like items around here are pretty minimal. But I was finding that the average salary for those folks are in that $44,000 to $45,000 range.
And we're at what?
And ours is?
40, it was, the range was 38 to 42, and the budget had like $100, it's like, I was gonna say $40,000.
Okay, Joe? Joe?
Yes,
That was it?
that was it.
That's it. Dick?
Well, I guess I'm gonna follow up on Joe's question and ask Mike, what do you think a competitive offer that would attract the right individual needs to be?
Well, that's a kind of a difficult one to answer, in just with one sentence, because it depends on what they come for. If I hired someone out of college that didn't have any kind of background or experience, it's gonna be cheaper than someone that comes to us with programming and Parks and Rec experience. And the one individual that I was dealing with had a good background and grant writing and program development of all ages. So that was why it was attractive. And the person was in the younger part of their life rather than the older part, the waning out part of their life. So I was looking for someone that was going to stick around, and that was and somebody that could build a program from what we have right now and grow it and have energy and enthusiasm. And when they start dealing with students from the university, they can actually kind of relate with them. So I saw that as a big plus. And so I'm thinking, Dick, that competitively, it needs to be around the $45,000 mark to try to be at least a little competitive. And everybody that I talked to was asking for 50 or greater, but they had a lot of background. But if I start over and try to work with the university to find someone, I'm hopeful that I'll find somebody in that $45,000 range. And if you add 5% to $42,000, it gets us in that range.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions for Mike? So is it fair to say right now that you're in a holding pattern? You're going to work with the university? Mike, is that your intent?
Yeah, we have nobody else to negotiate with at this point, so it's just starting over.
All right. Anything else for Mike on his manager's report?
I'm all set.
All set, guys? All set, Mary Lou?
I'm all set.
So am I. Okay, we'll move on to purchase orders for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we approve purchase order number 048606 to Motorola Solutions for an in-car camera unit replacement that's paid 84% by equipment grant. So the sum total of the purchase order is $5,295.
I'll second that.
And a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion passes. You want me to put the date on here? The 8th, 9th?
Today's the 8th.
8th today.
We jumped it around enough.
It's not the 11th, we know that.
You want to sign it, Mike, or you want me to sign it? What do you want to
You
do?
can sign, if you got it right there, you can waste your ink.
Okay, moving on to the warrants.
I'll make a motion, we approve warrant number 0808 for $72,122.03. Warrant 0804 for $12,655.28. Warrant 0729 for $6,857.74. Warrant 0804P for $22,153.30. And warrant number 0728P for $21,485.18.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And a second. Discussion?
I have none.
None? All those in favor of approving the warrants indicate, those warrants indicate by saying aye.
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 I'll go on to make a motion, we approve warrant number 0807 for $186.21.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Discussion?
I recuse myself.
Joe recuses himself. Okay, we still got three. All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 You hesitated, Mr. Chairman.
Pardon?
You said
You
you has,
hesitated.
I really
I would make
didn't,
a
I didn't
motion.
intend to, Joe.
That we approve, but, by the way, I'm using my, Sailing Camp 2022 mug tonight. Great
Outstanding.
photographs. I'd like to make a motion that we approve warrant number 0805T for $654.67 and 0715P for $654.68.
Second that.
And then second? Discussion? All those in favor?
Recuse myself.
Sure. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 And Dick recuses himself. I think that takes care of the warrants. Well, will you fellas try to get in tomorrow and sign these? Right now, we only have 2 signatures,
I can do that.
okay?
Likewise.
I could fix that thing with a hammer,
yeah.
when in doubt. That refrigerator out there is making a crazy noise, too.
And the hot water tank had to be replaced, place is falling apart.
Still fairly new, too.
Yeah.
Of course, that might not be a new refrigerator.
Well, when it's hot out, you find where the weak areas are, or what's weak, because
Yeah.
it seems to come out.
Just like having an old truck in the winter, you find out what's wrong with it.
All set, Mary Lee? Okay,
I got 'em all.
thank you. Okay, brief recap, items for follow-up. Do we have some? Joe?
Well, it relates to our last meeting, but, the, Little Rutland Road culvert issue, you know, I know that I asked Mike to come back to us with a plan, not this soon, but I guess my personal time frame is somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 months, or at the outside 3 months.
And
Mike?
Brent and I are working on that, trying to come up with we're gonna rent a small excavator and do some of the work ourselves, and Aton followed up with me by a text, and I let him know where we're at with it, so we're trying to find a small excavator, a rubber tracked excavator right now to rent, and it's proven, we're in the Burlington area now trying to find one.
Well, I'm glad you're working on it.
Anything else, Joe?
No.
Okay, Dick?
I'm all set.
Mary Lee?
Fine.
So am I. Okay, is there a reason for executive session, Mike?
I don't have anything.
You don't have anything, okay? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So move.
And
Second.
And a second. Yeah, all those in favor of adjournment at 8:19 indicate by saying aye.
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 Hi.
We're adjourned.